Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wyld. Today we are talking about the Dasher Pay Model on DoorDash. So with any gig app available to you in the gig economy, one of the first things you need to understand as deeply as possible is the pay model of the app you're working on, how you are going to get paid. And DoorDash is certainly no exception to that. So with that said, I want to go over everything you must know about the DoorDash pay model on a general level, what they tell you versus how it actually is, and everything in between. But before we do that, let's go over a quick disclaimer. The content of this video does not contain and is never intended to be legal, business, financial, tax, or health advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is advised that you conduct your own research and consult with qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. I also want to be clear that everything that we're going to go over on this subject is market dependent, and what applies to me in my market may not apply to you. So with that said, let's get started. We know that Dashers have a lot of choices, which is why we've created a pay model that is designed to make earnings fair and transparent for every delivery. Base pay plus promotions plus tips equals total earnings. So based on the individual photo that they've provided us, base pay is calculated by time, distance, and desirability. I know desirability is already a frustrating term. Like, what does that even mean? Promotions, peak pay, and challenges, which I've already made a video talking all about peak pay and challenges. I will leave that in the description so that way we're not spending super amount of time on that. Feel free to check that out after this video. And tips. You'll earn 100% of tips on top of base pay and promotions. And there is a lot to be said about that subject specifically. But all of that equates to your total earnings, which you will always earn base pay, but promo pay and tips will vary by delivery. Base pay. Base pay is the base contribution for each order. This will range from $2 to $10 plus when a Dasher chooses to earn per order, depending on estimated time, distance, and desirability of the order. Deliveries that require Dashers to travel a longer distance that are expected to take more time and that are less popular with Dashers will have higher base pay. Base pay will not be changed based on the customer tip amount. All right, there's already a lot to be said about that, so let's go over each of those things. They don't really change it by time and distance. There have been so many people seeing orders that are $2.50 going 10 miles, knowing dang well that time and distance doesn't make sense. So honestly, that's a lie in its own right. Desirability is a metric that they kind of use for how many times it got declined before they have to increase the value of the order. They usually increase the value of the order in 25-cent intervals, starting at whatever the bottom base pay is in your market. Some people it's $2, some people it's $2.25, some people it's $2.50. I know that for mine, it was $2.50 for a very long time. Some people had it at $2.75. Some people still have it at $3, you lucky little craps. But the fact of the matter is that DoorDash really isn't changing it based on time and distance. They're saying it because it sounds good for a help page, not because how it actually is that. And they also say base pay will not change based on the customer tip amount. But here's the reality. It has already been proven that they have been known to reveal more of the tip instead of increasing the amount of base pay based on how often it gets declined too. So desirability will reveal more tip before it actually increases base pay, which is kind of sad. And if you don't know what I mean by revealing more tip, that means you're not 100% certain about the hidden tip system. And I will leave that video in the description talking all about that as well. Feel free to check that out. Promotions. Promotions are additional pay for orders that meet certain conditions, giving Dashers an opportunity to earn even more. They can vary between Dashers based on factors like how new they are to the platform and also based on other factors like location and time of day. The three types of promotions that they do often enough is peak pay, challenges and guaranteed earnings. Guaranteed earnings is like a overblown challenge. Tips. When using DoorDash, customers can generally choose to leave a tip when they check out or after the delivery is completed. 100% of the tips received by DoorDash will continue to go to the Dasher on top of base pay and promotions. The amount DoorDash pays in base pay and promotions will never vary based on tip amount. For example, for two identical deliveries where one customer leaves a $3 tip and another customer leaves a $6 tip, one Dasher will earn $3 more than the other, which is exactly why you never take lowball offers. If you see an order is for $250 and you see another order is for more than that, like $650, $750, $850, you're obviously going to want to commit more of your time to orders to customers that are actually going to pay you for your services. Not no tip offers or lowball offers that not only are fiscally irresponsible to actually do, but overall will be more expensive for you to complete. Think about it like this. You're a DoorDash driver, which means you're an independent contractor, which means you're a 1099 worker, which means all the expenses of what it takes to actually complete that order are on you. The miles you're driving, the gas you're putting in your car. So if a customer doesn't want to tip you based on the work you're doing, it doesn't make sense for you to do that order. It's fiscally irresponsible to do so. If a customer adds a post-checkout tip on any previous order, the Dasher will receive a notification that they received an additional tip and can find an updated earnings breakdown for that delivery in the Dasher's app earnings tab. Which, yes, they have actually implemented a system to where people can actually tip you more. That's a little bit easier than what they used to do. They used to have it so that way you basically have to go through support, which is a nightmare and a half for customers because no one wants to deal with support, let alone us. Now they actually have a system where you can actually increase the tip after, which is kind of cool, not gonna lie. Now I do have a few side notes that I'd like to go over on this particular subject. Income expectations. So if you're a DoorDash driver, this may or may not be one of the first ever gig apps you've been a part of, so it may not be 100% clear that none of you are paid for your time. And a lot of websites will tell you, oh, 25 an hour, oh, 20 an hour at this market. No. None of you are paid for your time. That's very misleading. You are paid for the work you do. Now, DoorDash can be known to have a very high volume in certain areas, but at the same time, again, you're not paid for your time. The only exception to that rule is if you're using the earn by time setting. Again, I made a video on that as well. I'll leave that in the description. I know I'm plugging a lot, but all of it is relevant. Your income expectations should be based on the work you actually do, and that's not going to be the same for every single market. And it's also going to be dependent on the standards you set for yourself. So you also need to determine what is the smallest order you need to make based on your individual situation. So while I can't give you an exact number, while I was full-time on DoorDash and was very consistent with it, I was actually making a good $1,400 a week consistently. So take it for what it is. And that was being a very picky cherry picker down here in South Florida. That was also in New York, by the way. I was also pretty active in New York. And I was driving a car that was less than fiscally responsible to drive. Let's call it that. Goddamn thing broke down all the time. 80% of income will be tips. If you're familiar with the Pareto principle, 80% of the effects that you're going to experience are going to be from 20% of the cost, which means 80% of the money you're going to be making on DoorDash is going to come from 20% of the orders, and that 20% of the orders are the tips that you receive from quality customers. On a surface level, the point of the matter is that you do need to make sure you're taking orders that tip you well and pay you well. And because 80% of the income you're going to be making on DoorDash is tips, it's important for you to understand that specifically. What you do with that information, it's up to you, but make sure you understand that the large majority of orders that are quality are going to come from tips. Updates are made all the time. So there are always going to be little tweaks and things things like that towards the Doordash Pay Model, and sometimes even new pay models altogether, especially on Doordash. Pay model we just discussed is the earn by order pay model. They've also introduced earn by time. It's a separate pay model that Doordash has introduced, and while I don't necessarily think it's the greatest way to earn on Doordash, I do know a lot of people that actually like the idea of thinking less and doing more. So if you like it, great. If not, great. That's one of the cool things about Doordash, is that you can actually choose how you want to make money. And that's the coolest thing about being an independent contractor as well. You get to decide how you want to make money on each platform. But make sure you're keeping up with what those updates are. Make sure you're staying tuned to Dasher's Digest when it comes in the email. Make sure you're keeping up with GigTubers who are all over this stuff. And I'm not even just saying that for me to get subscribers. If you don't resonate with me that well, I totally get it. I am not going to resonate with the large majority of people because the large majority of people aren't going to relate to me the same way they would relate to Pedro Doordash Santiago, or Zach Drives Fast, or Nugs. But it's vitally important that you find somebody and be a part of their community, because that way you have the best possible understanding of each type of delivery and how the Doordash platform works. Did I miss anything? Is there something else about the Doordash pay model that I have yet to cover in this video? Let me know in the comments. Let's make sure that anything and everything in terms of how Doordash works is covered to the best of our ability as possible, and everyone can make the most amount of money in the least amount of time as we can. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!